frac contact.
So the big question is, how did we get to this point? And you have to look back to spring. Spring is typically an active time of year where we get many low pressure systems that move across the Rocky Mountain area, produce snow, produce rainfall. Well, those low pressure systems did not pan out. A lot of them went north of our region during the spring months. What snowpack we had was depleted by above average temperatures, and we were not picking up the snow either at our higher elevations during that time. That definitely changes the fire environment, so the fuels become exposed to dry conditions. Fuels that should be under snowpack were not this year. And usually fuels like big logs on the forest floor are taking on moisture from melting snowpack. Well, if there's no snowpack, then you're basically starting very dry in those fuel beds. And so that can support the fire environment, or at least an early onset of fire season. We have set the stage for at least an average fire season, and in some locations above average fire season, because of the dry spring. And we're starting to see quite a bit of fire activity across southern Colorado. And just recently, we're starting to pick up some new fires up in Wyoming. So fire season's trying to make its track northward, as it typically does this time of year. Sometimes we'll see some dry air move into western Kansas this time of year, but for the most part, the Great Plains are typically taken out of fire season because of increase in humidity out there. So our focus over the next several months, or at least over the next couple months, will be fire season moving northward into Wyoming, which we're already starting to see some ignition. We're starting to see a little bit of ignition also in South Dakota from lightning recently. And so that area is also a concern for this summer because it's drier than average. So they've had some moisture recently, but it's still below average if you look at long-term deficits for that area. This year, we think that we're going to have a typical onset of the southwest monsoon, late June, early July time frame. That moisture is going to move up into our area and increase our humidity, increase our rainfall, increase our thunderstorms. That's kind of a double-edged sword, at least to start with. More thunderstorm activity means more lightning. More lightning means more ignition. So there could be a busy period where we get more ignition. After that, where that monsoon moisture plume sets up and how it curves off to the east is still unknown. We've seen monsoon moisture make its way north all the way up to the Canadian border at some years. It has done that. Other years it goes up through southern Colorado, curves into eastern Colorado, and out into the plains, and can miss northwest Colorado, Wyoming, South Dakota, and they quickly get into a fire season when that happens. So you got to look at the big picture of what happened in the spring heading into our typical fire season. Very important how we set that stage of the fire environment. But every year is different, and these are basically the cards we are dealt this year. So here's where we're at, and we've seen an increase in fire activity.